Hi, and welcome to another fine edition of On the Spot. My name is Ronnie Wiley. Last month, we had Charlie Hughes on the spot. We could not contain your information in just 1 hour or 1/2 hour, so we're going to do it again this month. Charlie, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
All right. Last month we talked about your family history here in Connersville. Lots of family members here. Lots of military experience. You have
Yes.
great grandparents that go all the way back to the Revolutionary War.
Right.
Right. And so your family has fought in the Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War I, World War II for you, with your extensive history. And we also talked about the early days of Fayette County when you were born during the Depression, and how you got through that. You also have something that you didn't have last time. You have those wings.
Yep.
Exactly what do those wings mean?
Well, when I first went into service, I applied for gunnery school, became an aerial gunner, and then when I graduated from gunnery school, then I took another class of 14 weeks on airplane armament.
Yeah.
And I'm classified as an airplane armor, which consists of all the ordnance on an airplane.
Wow. So so you spent a lot of time in the air.
Yeah.
Wow. So and that of course was during your time in World War II, and the planes obviously are a little bit different now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, everything is computerized now.
A little bit easier, right?
They almost eliminated my job.
Yeah, it's just push a button and there you go. So again, lots of history. We talked last month about the fact that you started getting involved with Harry Smith for the cemetery,
Yes.
the city cemetery. How did that come about?
Well, Harry and I were old Civil War travel friends. A group of 8 of us spent 20 years. Every year we'd take a week off from our families and go to different Civil War battlefields.
Oh, wow.
And of course, being with Harry so much, a lot of his knowledge rubbed off on me. And so we got where we go over to the cemetery occasionally when we weren't working at the museum, and we decided that nobody was maintaining the cemetery like it should be for the veterans. So that started. Then we got our good friend from the public library, and she got involved with us. Then we got a couple more, but Harry and I seemed to be the only 2 regulars for a long period of time. Now, this was in 1983.
Oh, wow.
And so that's when we first started, and nobody was maintaining the cemetery except the city would send a crew over to mow, but nothing was being done about maintaining the graves.
Right. So the headstones were in bad shape. Yeah.
Yeah, they need to be cleaned in the worst way, and they'd been hit by the mowers, and they were off kilter, and some of them were almost off the base.
Wow.
So it took some muscle and a lot of time, and so it was just one of those things that we thought we ought to do.
Yeah, and your work has led recently. We have a picture of you here. It says in honor of Charles Hughes for your let's see here, for service to the country and community. You have a bench in the city cemetery.
Right.
Yeah, and when was this picture taken?
In 2012.
Oh, wow. So just a couple years. That was about around your 90th birthday, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. There you go. Yeah, that's a nice photograph. So, you've done a lot of work with the city cemetery. You've also done a lot of work with the Fayette County Historical Society.
Yes, I
with the
have.
museum. How did that get started?
Well, again, Harry Smith.
Harry Smith, yeah.
And after Mr. Reynolds passed away, then Harry became the curator of the museum.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was down in an old church that the city had acquired.
They're on Vine?
Down on Vine.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
And so then later, the Huffmar brothers had owned the plumbing business, bought that building on the corner of Fifth and Vine.
Right.
And so after one of the brothers died, then the other one came to one of our meetings and asked for $1, and he gave us the deed to the property.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
we remodeled that building, and that's where we are today.
Yeah, and you guys have been there for quite a while, because I remember
Yeah.
it used to be a VP, and then Telking Drugs was in there.
Yeah.
And so, again, what year did the museum start with Harry? Did he start before you? Was it going pretty good before you got involved?
Well, it was that building down there was an old church originally,
Mm-hmm.
and they had so much stuff they just couldn't display it in there,
Right.
you know. And then we never had any automobiles down there.
Right.
But I'd go visit with Harry down there when he had the museum open on Sundays.
Right.
And so it just got where I was there as much as Harry.
Right.
And so it's like sort of a family affair.
Sure. Where were the cars stored before? Obviously, in the church, you couldn't get any museums.
We didn't have them before.
Oh, you didn't have the cars?
No.
Oh, so you had to... So
We acquired what cars we have. We acquired after we got in this new building.
Wow. Well, and you guys have, as we showed the first picture here, this is an old buggy, horse and carriage, from what I understand.
It's not a buggy, it's
not
a
a buggy?
carriage.
Carriage?
The difference between a buggy and a carriage has fenders.
Oh, fender. Okay, well, see,
And
and a buggy doesn't.
this is a McFarland carriage,
Yeah.
set 1870.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that was before the automobile industry got started.
Right.
So naturally, the McFarland family just evolved from the carriage business to automobiles.
Right, right. So you guys had to repurchase these. How did you find them?
Well, we have people that's bugs on eBay.
Oh, yeah?
And I think we have one or two that when they get up in the morning, the first thing they look at is their eBay.
Right.
And even before they get out of their pajamas. But that's how we found it. The McFarland automobile we have.
I believe we may have that here somewhere.
Yes, there it is.
Which one? This one?
This
Oh,
is
that's a
it.
sharp.
That's a 1924 McFarland Cabaret town car.
Very nice. Very nice.
Original price, $9,000.
That was a lot of money back then. That is a sharp vehicle. It's got a full spare tire, which is nice. They don't have those anymore.
When we purchased the car in 2000, it was ready to go on the auction block, and we give $80,500 for it.
That's unbelievable.
But on today's market, there's only 5 of them that we know in the world, including
This one. And this was made right here in Connersville?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
All 5 of them were made in Connersville.
It's a sharp vehicle.
And This one has been completely restored.
Yeah.
And on today's market, the insurance company said the value is $500,000.
Wow. Yeah, you definitely got to keep that
Yes,
that intact.
very definitely.
So again, I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to these old type of vehicles, but the driver sat out in the elements. It looks like.
Well,
Did something come over?
There was a little roof over the driver,
Yeah.
but when they did the restoration work, they decided that
Oh,
since it was going to be in a museum or inside, they just eliminated that part of it.
That's like a limousine almost. I mean, that
It is.
definitely.
If you owned this car, you never
rich.
drove it. You had a chauffeur.
Yeah, there you go. That's neat. That's neat.
That was the money class.
Yeah, absolutely. $9,000 for a car. I mean, this is a sharp piece of machinery right there. So again, you guys had to really purchase, go and do a lot of hard work.
Oh,
A lot of
yes.
negotiating of prices. And was there any vehicle that you guys haven't gotten that you're still looking to get?
A 37 Cord.
Oh, that made right here in Connersville too?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if you own a 37 Cord, come and see Charlie. Yeah. Wow, that's neat. So
A Cord automobile on today's market runs a minimum 50,000 up.
wow.
So if you own that car, you've got a lot of money right there.
Wow, wow. Now, again, going back to the McFarlane, again, nice piece of machinery. It looks very, very beautiful, very well attained. Is it street legal? Can we drive it today without, I mean, because obviously now we have, you got to have certain safety measures for cars that these cars didn't have, obviously, back in the day. Can this be driven?
It can be, but the insurance company
probably
would
won't
blow
let you.
their mind
that's
because
right.
it is insured, but you can't.
I know. I
can't
wouldn't want to drive it. No.
You can't have it out on the street.
Yeah.
Now we in the bicentennial,
Yeah.
we showed it, but it was on a flatbed,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and anything that old has. The insurance company says it has to be on either in a trailer or on a flatbed.
Yeah,
they don't want it on the street where it can be damaged.
Right. Oh, I don't know if I would want it on the street, so it can be damaged. That is a nice piece of vehicle. Going back in the time, again, this is. I'm assuming that this is
This is a Rex buggy.
a Rex buggy.
Rex was probably one of the premier buggy makers of its day.
Right here in Connersville.
Right here in Connersville. In fact, in 1898, Rex Manufacturing, which was the maker of this buggy, it's called the Yale buggy.
Yale buggy.
And in 1898, Connersville was the third leading producers of buggy in the United States.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. You think about that. You think about, I mean, that was, 117 years ago. It just, I mean, wow, how much Connersville meant to the automobile industry, even back in the horse and buggy days. We have, this is a nice convertible vehicle. Which vehicle is this? That's a sharp one.
Let me think here.
Here, I can show it to the audience. Maybe somebody will know. I mean, not like they can tell us right now, but that is a nice vehicle. One thing I've always wondered, and I've never really, again, I'm really ignorant when it comes to some of these vehicles here. But we have the lamps here, or we have the headlights here, and then on the side we have, looks like there's lamps, and then we got this booster thing.
Little story about this. This car, if you show it to the audience,
Yeah.
the headlights are gas fed
Oh, is that what it is?
off of the cylinder there on the
On
fender.
the side is oh wow.
Or on the running board,
yeah,
I should
that's
say.
a gas.
The side lights were kerosene. which was a terrible idea.
Well, yeah.
Because if this thing went over 5 miles an hour, the wind sucked that flame right out of those two
Imagine.
side lights. So
Yeah, so the side lights, I mean, obviously they don't have blinkers back in the day, so you had to do your signals. But that is a nice, I would be afraid to, I mean, if you smoked back in the day.
The name of this car is the Empire.
Empire.
The factory was on East Washington Street in Indianapolis. And in 1910, they
It's a nice
decided
vehicle.
that they wanted to expand their business, but they didn't want to shut down production. So they moved the operation to Connersville for 3 years. And this is one of the last to come off of the assembly line.
Yeah, this is another shot of the 1913 Empire. Again, convertible.
Now, if you notice, the steering column on that car,
Is in the middle.
it's on the right side.
Is that the right side? Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what? You're right about that. It is. I
And-
thought that was like right in the middle.
That was probably one of the last
Yeah, sure is.
years when the cars had the steering column on the right side.
See, I didn't know they ever had that.
The manufacturers decided that in 1913 there was too much traffic on the road, so to meet the cars head on, they wanted to make sure that the driver was here close enough.
Good to see. Yeah.
So rather than putting in a ditch,
Right.
they moved the steering column to the left side.
Right. I know one time I was in Jamaica and I was with some friends who are Jamaican, and they drive on the other side of the
Yes.
road. So I'm sitting in what would be my driver's seat, and we're on the left side of the road, and I'm going around a corner, and I'm swearing we're going to hit somebody head on. So it was kind of neat and unusual that way. And I know that, of course, the Jeeps for the post office are always on the right side. Now, one of the most famous cars when we moved over here to Indiana, my family, we moved over here in 1987, and we heard about all the automobile history of Fayette County, of Connersville. One of the cars that they talked about a lot was the Lexington.
Yes.
And we have one right here, a 1922 Lexington, a blue, which is very unusual because this is a different color than what we're used to. It's either black or silver, what we've seen back in the day. This is blue. Is this the original color?
When we acquired this car, it was in, as you can see from a lot of the posters here on the fender, or on the running board.
Yeah.
We took this car out to the high school, to the tech center, and they did all this restoration work. Well, in the process, they found a small place on the body that was actually this blue color. So they got the spectrographs and found out that it was the original color.
Oh,
so
wow.
when they restored it, that was the
Restored it
original
to its original color.
Yeah.
Wow. Very nice. Very nice. Because I know Fords were generally black.
You had a real choice: black, blue, green, or brown.
Wow, brown's always a good color on a car. So again, lots of vehicles that can be found at the museum, but it's not just the vehicle, not just the automobile industry. We have the replica of the Fifth Street Bridge.
Right. That was made by a fellow that lived in East Side by the name of Wright.
Okay, that's a nice
And
bridge.
this was one of 3 bridges made by the Kennedy, family from Rush County.
Yeah.
And they were the premier bridge builders of their day.
Yeah.
And this one was probably one of the finest because
Yeah, it looks nice.
it was not only enclosed, but it had a walkway
On each side.
on each side. Now they built 3 of these bridges in Fayette County in a 5-year span.
Yeah. Was this?
One that was out at Dunlapsville, which the vandals burnt.
Oh, wow.
The other is up in Roberts Park. It was out at Longwood.
Okay, so this is the Fifth Street Bridge, and then
Yes.
the Longwood Bridge is the one that's out at Roberts
Right.
Park. Which from what I understand, are they restoring that? Wasn't there talk recently of them wanting to do some restoration on that?
Well, we have to keep restoring them because vandals keep
Yeah, that's true.
tearing it up.
Don't be vandals.
And by the way, the place is pretty well secure now. We've
Yeah.
got a security system in
Good,
that we're not going to have to worry about that for a while.
I never forget one time when I was driving through town. I was very new here to Connersville. I had some friends that were showing me around town and trying to get used to it because I came from Dayton, Ohio, and there was so much more things to do. And in this small town, I was like, what's there to really do? And one of the things that my friends were showing me, believe it or not, we were teenagers, and they were showing me, oh, this place here used to be a supermarket. It was like so many supermarkets. I mean, it seemed like a supermarket on every block. and looking at like general stores and A&Ps and looking at this photo here, I'm getting the sense that this may be like an old general store setup.
Right.
Like an old,
Every year, the third grade class of the grade schools visit the museum. And that's the year that they learn early Indiana history, the pioneers.
Yeah.
And so we try to set up part of the museum to entice the kids and explain to them what their ancestors lived through.
Sure.
So this old grocery store, we show them how the stuff was on the shelf. You didn't just go in with a shopping cart and pick everything off. You had a list you gave to the clerk. He'd give you measured out of 5 pounds of sugar or
Oh, wow.
10 pounds of flour or a peck of potatoes. Everything was weighed, and we have two sets of scales there. One is the weight scales, the other are spring scales.
Wow.
So we try to explain that if you went to the grocery store back then, it was an ordeal to get everything. You didn't just go in and grab and go out the door.
Yeah. Boy, it was an adventure. I would imagine then, because I get upset when there's two people in front of me at line. It's like, come on, open up another checkout lane. You got to wait for people to measure things out. Yeah, interesting how things go. Now we have a photograph of or we have a picture here of all kinds of old pictures of Abe Lincoln and some Civil War, and actually some posters. There was one that says a $10,000 reward. Are these authentic or are these replications?
It's a replica. I got that at the Ford Theater in Washington, D.C. a few years ago.
Wow.
And it's an exact replica
100,000 reward
of the poster for
Wilkes
Lincoln's
Booth?
assassination.
Yeah, John Wilkes Booth, yeah. A $100,000 reward for John Wilkes Booth.
Yes.
Wow, that back in the day, that would have set you up for life. You'd have been right there with the maybe not with the Rockefellers, but interesting that, because we Abe Lincoln does have some ties here to Fayette County, but and it looks like there's some, right here on the left side of the photograph, some old Army hats.
World War I helmets.
Helmets, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'll definitely have to get down there and see that. Now, here's one of the things that really, the photographs that you showed really, and I think John really liked this one too, is about as much as I did. There's a house.
Well, it's actually a cabin.
A cabin. That's a cabin.
These are hand-hewed logs from old buildings that have been torn down out in the county, and the owners were gracious enough to give them to us to build this. We wanted a replica of a small log cabin that the kids' ancestors lived in.
Right.
So the interior of this is roughly and I mean roughly, like an old cabin was back in the 1700s.
Now, when you were first born back in the 20s and going through the Depression, were there still log cabins here? Were there still
yes.
cabins in Fayette County?
Very much so.
When did they start being tore down? I remember up there next to the end of Gray Road that goes into one of those, which I guess that's 12th Street still, that there was a house that was being redone, and then they found a log cabin within the house. Remember that?
Yes.
That was not too long ago. And I think that may have been one of the last ones. But when did they start disappearing?
Well, I guess in the 20s, or maybe before the 20s, after World War I, the population started to increase, and so that was something that just evolved. People had to have a place to live,
Yeah.
so they buy an old log cabin if they wanted the land. That was it.
Wow. Here's something that's interesting. John would never wear this. Hair wreath. Now, this is pretty huge. Is this, explain how this works. I mean, this,
Well-
fashion from the day.
Back before the turn of the century, ladies got together like quilting bees or needle and thread groups, and they saved their hair. And when they got enough, then they all got together and they made these various things. Now, this one is a little larger than most of them.
Yeah.
We have a smaller one than this over at the Canal House. But you can imagine the delicacy that went into
Yeah.
and the time consumed
Yeah.
to make something like this.
Interesting. Last but not least, got to have something about sports.
Oh, yes.
There at the museum. Connersville Spartans, of course, two-time state basketball champions. We have, of course, April and Matt on there,
Yeah.
of course, two of the stellar stars of both the boys and the girls. And, again, with the renovation of the Spartan floor, you guys probably going to get a piece of that hardwood, aren't you?
Well,
We hope.
we hope. But when they consolidated the schools, we got a lot of the trophies from the old schools out in the county. So we have several showcases of trophies.
Phil Cox on here, I see, and just a great collection. Now, is this the first marching band photo? If we see that, is that a picture of the first marching band?
I'm not sure whether it is or not.
Yeah.
It's just one that we
One
have.
that-
So
yeah.
we,
Yeah, very, very, very nice. Now, again, what are the hours for the museum if somebody wants to come in to check out the museum? And what are the hours and what are the costs?
the cost is absolutely free.
Absolutely free.
And we have the museum open on Thursday and Sundays from 1 to 4, or if there's a group, they can call. We have numbers on the door that they can call, and we'll come and open up for groups of.
Oh, wow.
So,
So Thursday 1 to 4, Sunday 1 to 4, and
Right.
and they can browse as long as they want.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely free.
Absolutely free.
And I urge the people of the county, there's just so many people in this county that's never been in that
Right.
museum. In fact, a lot of them don't even know it's there.
Yeah, it's right there on the corner of 5th and Vine. Hopefully with this, it would. I know I want to show up. I got to go check this out, take my kids and check that out. Charlie Hughes, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. 1 full hour, 2 months of On the Spot. Thank you guys very much. We'll join you next month.